You will die in this place.
It's no news that House of the Dragon is pretty much overflowing with knights, dragon riders, and scheming politicians. While all of that, along with the ruthless war between the Green and the Black factions of the Targaryen house, makes up the core of the show, there are barely any characters who truly bring in an element of supernatural thrill within the prequel show. As you know, the first season of the show was more busy building up its main characters to the inevitable Dance of the Dragons. Season 2, on the other hand, has done a banger job so far, in terms of digging deeper into different subplots that would go on to contribute to the overarching storyline on a larger scale. George R.R. Martin's fantasy world has always treated magic as something mysterious and elusive, almost as if the concept is not for everyone to know or understand. However, The Burning Mill introduces us to Alice Rivers, the first character in the show to add that much-needed touch of magic and mystery. Even though her screen time so far has been rather short, her presence has been very impactful in a mind-bending way, making our favorite sad boy sassy prince, Daemon Targaryen, consistently go through a living nightmare is no joke, but we can all see how Alice has been consistently bending Daemon over the past 2 episodes, even though she does not play a major role in the Dance of the Dragons, and will never involve herself directly in the battles. Alice's influence on several members of House Targaryen is strongly felt throughout the war. Unlike Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon is jumping headfirst into fantasy, and I'm here for it. While we do not know how powerful Alice Rivers really is, the source material of the show, Fire and Blood, describes her as a witch. Unless the showrunners plan to rewrite her character, Alice is going to be one of the most important players in helping the Green side of the Dance of Dragons win their war. Not just that, even after the Civil War ends with cowering losses on both sides, Alice goes on to become the Witch Queen of Harrenhal. But how does that happen? Without wasting another moment, let's find out. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
What would you know of my sleep?
Harrenhal's been cursed since its first storm.
What is Alice doing in Harrenhal? Ever since Aegon the Conqueror burnt down Harrenhal, it's said to be cursed. But some believe that Harrenhal was cursed during the time Harren the Black constructed it, as he destroyed the sacred weirwood trees that once grew in its place. Those heart trees apparently held the spirits of ancient beings, and it's believed that their whispers still echoed through the castle grounds of Harrenhal. While Harrenhal was already infamous for its supernatural streak, Alice Rivers only made the castle seem more skin-crawling and weird with her presence. Unless you've read Fire and Blood, you probably don't know that Alice is the bastard daughter of House Strong, and that's the only solid fact we know about her birth. The details about her father and the exact time of when she was born are still unclear. Both Grand Maester Munkin and Septon Eustace believe she was the illegitimate daughter of Lord Lionel Strong, the former hand of King Viserys Targaryen, and was born from an unknown woman during the caprice of his youth. If that's true, Alice Rivers would be the half-sister of Lord Larys Strong, and the half-aunt of 3 of Rhaenyra's children, given that her sons were all fathered by Sir Harwin Strong. While there have been many rumors about her youth, most sources agreed that Alice has always shown a keen interest in potions, and was considered a woods witch who claimed she could see the future. Given that House Strong traces its lineage back to the First Men, it's more than possible that Alice had natural magical abilities that she learned to control. However, like much about her, the real extent of her magic remains a mystery. Another source of information about Alice comes from Queen Rhaenyra's fool, Mushroom, even though his accuracy is often questioned, as he is a delusional man who loved cooking up stories to seek attention. Mushroom, who's never appeared on the show, claimed that Alice was from an older generation of House Strong, which made her older than most men in Harrenhal. According to Mushroom, she was an enchantress who bathed in maiden's blood to stay young. But given Mushroom's tendency to exaggerate and sensationalize events during the Dance of the Dragons, this is likely just another one of his wild stories. Despite the uncertainty about her origins, Alice seems to have a mysterious influence over some of the most important men during the dance. And even after these different conflicting accounts, they all agree on one thing, which is how she looked much younger than she actually was. Plus, it's said that even though all of Alice's own children were stillborn, she served as a wet nurse to many children at Harrenhal. What kind of magic does Alice Rivers dabble in? So the whole concept of magic in George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire book series and its whole extended universe is often mysterious and kept rather elusive, which keeps making you second-guess everything. Of course, we've witnessed many magical occurrences in both Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. For instance, the warlocks in Qarth manipulated Daenerys into seeing visions. Plus, even characters like Helaena Targaryen and Aegon the Conqueror experienced prophetic dreams that alerted them to the existence of the White Walkers or any other impending doom. And to top it off, we're discussing a show where mythical creatures like dragons exist. But even after all these clear signs, there's no defining defined or structured system of magic like we see in some other fantasy worlds. In that manner, Alice Rivers' abilities equally fit into this mystical realm of unpredictability and intrigue. She's not your typical witch who casts spells, but she's the kind that deals with unusual potions and unique medicines. Like Melisandre, Alice probably experiences visions too. Moreover, Harrenhal and the God's Eye Lake in Westeros are known for their mysterious and mystical qualities. All of these elements pretty much combine to make Alice one of the most puzzling characters of the show. Even then, George R.R. Martin's approach to magic leaves a lot open to the imagination, further becoming a contributing factor to the allure of characters like Alice, in order to understand what their abilities really are, which might just be a question that may never be fully explained. Still, in episode 4 of the second season, we've witnessed how Alice had Daemon hallucinating his dead wife, after seeing himself dressed up like his nephew and beheading the younger version of his wife. Her potions clearly have a magical effect on her victims. In Fire and Blood, there's rarely anything mentioned about Alice's time with Daemon in Harrenhal, but everyone keeps questioning whether she uses poisons and potions to bind men to her body and soul. I think Alice first spiked his wine with a magical potion, then Daemon sat down to eat dinner with the lords of the castle. While she does get close to Daemon in a scene where she makes him drink a strange, bloody, pulpy concoction in the guise of a sleeping draught, it's still unclear if she's actively trying to seduce him at this point. What seems more certain is that she's intentionally creating these visions to confuse him. Given the mention of heart trees, it's entirely possible that whatever she's been giving him is something like weirwood paste from the books. In the lore, this paste was also given by the Children of the Forest to help Bran with his green sight, and was made from weirwood seeds and sap. While Alice's potion is more of a drink, it could serve a similar purpose. It might also be something like the Shade of the Evening, which was the potion consumed by the warlocks of Karth that induces hallucinations, as seen when Daenerys Targaryen drinks it before experiencing visions of the House of the Undying.
You'll need your sleep if you're to win this place to your side.
How does she influence the Dance of the Dragons? As you know, Alice was right there, inside the castle, when Daemon Targaryen claimed Harrenhal for the Blacks, surviving alongside the rest of House Strong. But when Aemon Targaryen eventually retook the castle, he only spared Alice Rivers' life, after executing every other member of House Strong. This just left her, Larys, and Rhaenyra's two eldest children as the last remaining descendants of House Strong. Interestingly enough, Aemon then forms a relationship with Alice, taking her as his lover. I mean, we always knew how Aemon had a thing for older women, trying to find the comfort he never received from his mother. But keeping his Oedipus complex aside, the historical documents in the book suggest that Aemon kept her as a spoil of war. It's possible that later she proved valuable to him in some way, possibly by showing him what she could do with her magical abilities. But there are also a few claims that suggest how Alice might have used her magical potions to seduce not only Aemon, but also Sir Criston Cole, the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard and Hand of the King. If you think about it, in a way, Alice survived many situations that should have been fatal in so many ways, so maybe this claim has some weight to it after all. Now in the main lore, as Criston marched south along the God's Eye, Aemon and his dragon Vhagar began burning the Riverlands. In Aemon's absence, when Lady Sabitha Frey took advantage of the situation and briefly recaptured Harrenhal for the Blacks, she found out that Alice was pregnant, claiming the child was Aemon's. Yet again, Alice survived, possibly because Sabitha did not want to kill a pregnant woman, despite the dark rumors that surround her. When Aemon reclaimed the castle, Alice was there waiting for him while Sabitha ran away. She later accompanied Aemon as he flew to confront Daemon Targaryen. Aemon also claimed that Alice's visions told him where Daemon would be, and so he returned to Harrenhal to face him and his dragon, Caraxes. Before the battle above the God's Eye began, Aemon left Alice on the ground, giving her one last kiss, while Vhagar and Caraxes, with their riders, took to the sky above the God's Eye. A pregnant Alice watched the battle from atop the Kingspire Tower in Harrenhal. Sadly, both Aemon and Daemon were killed in their duel. How does Alice Rivers become the Queen Witch of Harrenhal? Seems like everyone in all the Seven Kingdoms have always been preying on the Iron Throne. So why should Alice lag behind, especially now that she's carrying Aemon's child? Alice sort of vanished for a while during the end of the Civil War, before resurfacing again at Harrenhal. Meanwhile, the Dance of the Dragons had come to a bloody end. It was Rhaenyra's son, Aegon III, who ascended the Iron Throne after Aegon II was poisoned. Now, the new king was barely of age, and on his behalf, Lord Cregan Stark volunteered to restore the stability of the realms as the king's hand. In his 6 days of regency in King's Landing, Cregan executed the Lord of Harrenhal, Larys Strong, and basically cleaned up all the mess that the bloody civil war had left behind. During Aegon III's regency, many reports surfaced about a certain witch queen, proclaiming her son's rightful claim to the Iron Throne. Harrenhal had apparently become a gathering place for many outlaws and desperate men, who were being ruled by this mysterious witch queen. who was none other than Alice Rivers. She claimed that she had married Aemond, thus implying that their child was the rightful heir to the throne, through Aegon II's lineage. No one cared enough to take her claim seriously, but every attempt they made to oust her from Harrenhal failed. Harrenhal has always been an important juncture in Westeros, as it was the largest castle in the Seven Kingdoms that stood on the most fertile lands. Everyone knew that a strange woman occupying Harrenhal and the Riverlands was a major threat to the crown. So the next Hand of the King, Sir Tywin Lannister, assigned Sir Regis Groves of the Kingsguard and Sir Daemon Darry to march down to Harrenhal and reclaim the castle with 100 men. After they arrived, Alice declared herself as the widow of Prince Aemon Targaryen and presented a young boy as their legitimate trueborn son, while claiming that he was the rightful king instead of Aegon Targaryen III. As their confrontation raged on, things simply got weirder, as Sir Regis Groves suddenly died out of nowhere, right after he insulted Alice. While some blamed the Queen Witch for using her magic to burst his skull into bits, others believed that Regis was actually killed by her crossbowmen or slingers. Soon, Alice, outlaws, and followers pushed back the king's forces, leading Sir Daemon Darry to take only 32 survivors back to Castle Darry. Alice then imprisoned a loyalist man, and later sent him back to Darry with a message. This survivor reported that a dozen captives were under her clutches, and had been tortured to death. He even claimed that the Queen Witch had cursed him so that he would die if anyone laughed at his story. According to him, Alice warned that anyone approaching Harrenhal without submitting to its occupants would have no way out but death. The messenger also insisted he saw a dragon inside. Despite Daemon's reassurances, someone chuckled at the messenger's account, and moments later he choked to death, with many witnesses claiming to have seen strange marks that looked like a woman's fingers strangling his throat. Now, I've come across many intriguing theories about this dragon being a glamour spell on Caraxes' corpse, which was found on the shore of the God's Eye nearby after the battle between Daemon and Aemond. But there's no solid proof to verify this claim. Meanwhile, back in King's Landing, Tywin Lannister was deeply disturbed by Regis' sudden death. After hearing what Daemon had to say, Lord Unwin Peake dismissed his accounts of dragons and magic because the entire world knew only the Targaryens could tame a dragon, and Alice's son was too young to claim one. The other regents of Aegon also decided to side with Unwin after blaming all the chaos upon the outlaws. Soon, all of them decided they would be needing a bigger army to reclaim Harrenhal, but their plans were strangely disrupted by the sudden winter fever outbreak. After that, what happened to Alice remains unknown to everyone, as Fire and Blood ends before we get any more information on the Queen Witch, her supposed dragon bastard, or her so-called dragon. Bizarre theory of the Queen Witch of Harrenhal's connection to the Red Witch Melisandre. Given Alice Rivers' ambiguous age, she might have been involved in events at Harrenhal much earlier than the Dance of the Dragons, just like Melisandre from Game of Thrones, whose age was the biggest mystery to us. The true age of Alice also remains unanswered. Even if the exact date of Alice Rivers' birth is unknown, it's believed she was born around or before 89 AC, making her at least 40 years old when the Targaryen Civil War began. This confused a lot of Westerosi scholars because Alice looked much younger than her age. While it's definitely not impossible for someone to look younger than they are, given the rumors about Alice, it's hard to say if this was due to witchcraft. If you remember, Melisandre used glamours to hide her true appearance by wearing that necklace choker, which always made her look young and beautiful. So it's definitely possible Alice might have done something similar. In an interview, Gail Rankin, the actress who plays Alice, claimed that the witch might have been alive for over 400 years in the Game of Thrones universe. Plus, due to the strange similarities between Alice and Melisandre, a few fans of A Song of Ice and Fire have long speculated that both these witches might just be the same person, with the entire glamour trick and Melisandre finally allowing herself to die after fulfilling her purpose to defeat the Night King is pretty much the reason why some people believe she's existed since the time the White Walker prophecy was first around, through Aegon the Conqueror's dream. However, Melisandre's origin is completely different, as she was a girl sold into slavery until she found herself under the shadow of the Lord of Light. So, taking that into consideration, I think we can rule out their connection, as it was never suggested in Game of Thrones either. Another wild theory is that Melisandre could be the daughter of Alice Rivers, who might have been conceived with the Targaryen during the Dance of the Dragons, but I think there's barely any weight to this claim because of a lack of any valid evidence. With that being said, House of the Dragon could still explore this idea, if George R.R. Martin decides to give them the green light, as he's also the co-creator of the prequel show. How can House of the Dragon play out Alice's fate? If you've not read the books, Alice Rivers is definitely a character you should be keeping an eye out for in House of the Dragon. She has only had 2 scenes so far, but we've already seen the potency and impact of her supernatural abilities. When Daemon had visions of a young Rhaenyra criticizing his reckless behavior, he woke up on the shores of the God's Eye. Alice was there waiting for him, and told him that he would die in that place, which is all the hints we need to understand that she has already foreseen the battle that is to come. This would also explain why Alice latches on to Aemon the way she did. It's also possible that she might be facilitating events to ensure that they unfold as needed. The existence of woods witches are very rare in Westeros, and their motives are often unclear, but Alice, with her ability to see the future, might understand that the violence of the dance needs to happen in a certain way for the right family line to continue, because Aemond with Vhagar would always be a threat. She might have played on his obsession with being Daemon's rival, promising him a true duel with his uncle in the near future. However, Alice also might have carefully omitted the part where they would both die, along with some of the last great dragons in the world. One thing is certain, that Alice's motives are never clear, and the gap in her story makes it even harder for any of us to understand her true intentions. She seems to want her child on the Iron Throne, or perhaps a throne for herself by the end of her known history in Fire and Blood. However, since House of the Dragon has made it more than clear that the history books are full of inaccuracies, she might have different plans altogether. What I can be sure of is that Alice will use her abilities to guide the members of House Targaryen towards a specific destiny, ultimately playing a larger role in the death of the dragons. But what do you guys think? Let us know about your theories in the comments below. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone!